Nvidia, AMD, and a lot of other semiconductor stocks are up a nice amount after hours due to the positive and bullish sentiment in the AI market thanks to Meta platforms and Microsoft that just reported earnings. Now, on today's episode, what we are going to do is take a closer look at some recent earnings call transcripts from Meta and Microsoft and kind of see why the AI market is so bullish right now. Now, this is going to be the best place you're going to find any AI news, so make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. But if you just want to wait to see if this is the best place, let's get started with today's episode.
I want to thank the Motley Fool for sponsoring this video, and check out fool.com/Jose for the 10 best stocks to buy now. With that link, you get a promotional offer for the subscription service. Now, let's continue with today's episode.
All right, so we can see that semiconductor stocks, Nvidia is up roughly 3.7% after hours, AMD is up over 2% after hours, and we even have maybe not one in the semiconductor space, but dealing in the data center networking space, Arista Networks up nearly 7.5% after hours. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, Meta and Microsoft both reported great earnings. Now, I did do a earnings video a few hours ago, so if you want to know more about the earnings, check that video out. What we're going to do here today is just mainly look at the overall topics in the AI space. All right, so first I want to take a closer look at Meta Platforms. So Meta Platforms share some pretty cool concepts about how they're thinking of AI investments and what type of build-outs they're doing in infrastructure. So the first thing Mark Zuckerberg mentions is that AI is transforming everything they do. That is obviously, in my opinion, very bullish. So it shows that Mark and Meta are using AI in various ways and various growth opportunities. If Meta is doing this, it is safe to assume that other companies are seeing similar opportunities. Now, Mark Zuckerberg believes there's 5 major opportunities that Meta can focus on, and those are improved advertisement, more engaging experience, business messaging, Meta AI, and AI devices. And we can already, especially with improved advertisement and more engaging experience with their recommender system, recommending either better ads or better content, it can help things with better pricing on ads or longer time spent on their applications, which at the end of the day leads to more ads. So we can already see how AI applications are being used by Meta platforms already. Now, the one that I'm pretty excited about is AI devices, and Meta and Mark Zuckerberg are really bullish on what they call kind of these augmented reality and AI glasses that they have with Ray-Ban. So this is the 5 opportunities, and Mark Zuckerberg mentions they don't have to win on all of them, but just winning in a few can be a massive change to the overall stock. So first, again, this is just showcasing that the AI has massive growth opportunities. Then Mark Zuckerberg mentions that he wants to make sure that they are building out the leading infrastructure and teams that they need to achieve their goals. So to that end, they are accelerating some of their efforts to bring capacity online more quickly this year, as well as some longer term projects that will give them the flexibility to add capacity in the coming years as well. So to me, that spells money for Nvidia, for AMD, and Arista Networks, and I do believe this is one of the reasons these stocks are up. Obviously, Meta is a nice customer to all these players right here. There are some, I don't know, I posted today on Twitter, and it seems like a lot of people think that Meta is solely using AMD's chips. That's not necessarily true, so whoever told you that is lying to you. Meta is one of the few players that does use AMD chips, but not exclusively. They are a massive customer of Nvidia and buy tons and tons of their chips. But regardless, it could definitely be bullish for AMD. I actually just recently purchased some AMD stock a few days ago. I did purchase a few other stocks last Friday. I believe it was Friday. Yeah, Friday or no, it was Friday. And if you want me to talk about those stocks, let me know in the comments below. But actually, if you're watching here, these are the 4 stocks I've recently purchased: AMD, MRVL, CRWV, and Oracle, all really much focusing in the AI space. I bought them on Friday. For those that are not familiar, due to Motley Fool rules, I can't really talk about those stocks that I buy until a few days after I purchase the stock. So those are the 4 stocks I'm buying, and pretty much all I think are sitting at cheap values and are ones that I want to continue to grow my overall market position in. And some of those are really big, like CRWV has become a massive position as of Friday. I recently did a video on them. But again, this is not a video on the position stocks I bought. I just wanted to let it be known. I might do a video later this week explaining why I purchased them. But regardless, the AI space is very bullish right now. Now, there's obviously a lot more I can talk about, but make sure to check out my free newsletter, whatthechip.happened.com. This is where every day I release a few tidbits of semiconductor news. Earlier this morning, we talked about Supermicro, Qorvo, and Palo Alto. So whatthechip.happened.com, completely free. Make sure to check that out. Now, coming back here to Meta, the CFO, which Susan, I think is actually, you know what, I've listened to Meta Platforms earnings call a lot, but Susan, I don't know if she just had a great mic for this one. The way she talked and the way she explained what Meta was doing, in my opinion, is grade A. This is an amazing CFO. And they talk about the infrastructure. So on infrastructure, they have two primary focus to meet the growing compute needs of their services and AI initiatives. The first way is scaling up infrastructure footprint. Their CapEx growth this year is going toward both generative AI and core business needs, with the majority of overall CapEx supporting the core. So remember, the core business is they buy GPUs to do those recommender systems, to do their advertisement business, to increase the engagement, but they're also focusing on generative AI solutions, and that's kind of where that Llama model comes out. They expect the significant infrastructure footprint that they are building will not only help them meet demand for their business in the near term, but also provide an advantage in quality and scale of AI services they can deliver. They continue to build this capacity in a way that grants them maximum flexibility in how and when they deploy it to ensure they have the agility to react to how technology and industries develop in the coming years. So even with the capacity that they're bringing online in 2025, they are still having a hard time meeting the demand that teams have for compute resources across the company. So this is, Meta is a little bit different to your Google and Microsoft, right? They don't have a cloud solution that they rent out these clouds, but they have such a huge compute need that they've mentioned, even with everything that they're building here in 2025, they've even accelerated a little bit. And we did see that they increased their capital expenditure. I didn't really talk about that, but let me just pull that out for us to look here. They did increase their capital expenditure even with all that. Right, even with pulling things ahead, increasing their capital expenditure, their team still complain that they don't have enough compute. So that to me is very bullish for the AI space. Here they talk about it, that they increased their range of capital expenditure to 64 to 72 billion versus the prior outlook of 60 to 75. This outlook reflects two main things. First, some data centers are becoming a little bit more expensive with maybe things like tariffs. The other thing is they are just increasing their investments in artificial intelligence efforts. The kind of data center higher cost are more on the top end, and that's why the top end is like $72 billion. I think $64 billion is what they're going to spend regardless if there was any tariffs or not. So regardless, they still did increase their capital expenditure by about $4 billion, and that is very bullish for Nvidia and AMD and those other players that I've talked about. So again, Meta telling us AI market is transforming their products, and that their team is still complaining about compute even after they accelerated some of their build outs. Now we're going to hear a kind of similar story from Microsoft, and I think actually Microsoft had a better picture to paint. So Microsoft, we can kind of just see their cloud infrastructure continue to grow. So cloud revenue was about 26.8 billion. It did beat analyst expectations, and it did grow about 20.8% year over year. A few things that we learned from Microsoft earnings call is Satya, the CEO of Microsoft, mentions that they processed over 100 trillion tokens this quarter, up 5 times year over year, including a record 50 trillion tokens last month. And this is kind of what Jensen has been talking about, the AI factories, that you need to generate and process tokens to build these AI solutions. We're still in early innings, but we can see how that is growing dramatically. And as you continue to see this high growth in tokens need, you're going to continue to see huge demand for the Blackwell system. Now, Amy Hood, which is the CFO, another one that actually shared a lot of great information, they mentioned that they continue to see strong demand for their cloud and AI offerings as they help customers drive productivity, increase efficiencies, and grow their business. And again, this quarter revenue from their AI business was above expectations. So the AI market is not slowing down. Regardless, they do mention that capital expenditure is still expected to be what they mentioned for this year, which ends next quarter. There are a few quarters ahead of calendar year. So second half CapEx in total remains unchanged from their January H2 guidance. But there are some things that I think investors should be very bullish about. First, they mentioned in Azure, they expect quarter four revenue to grow between 34 and 35%, driven by strong demand for their portfolios of services. Again, this is definitely driven by the AI market. Now, another thing is while we continue, they mentioned that while they continue to bring data center capacity online as planned, demand is growing a bit faster. Therefore, they now expect to have some AI capacity constraints beyond June. And this to me is extremely bullish. And let me explain why. So I'll kind of pull back to the other ones, but let me talk about this comment. So last quarter, they had hoped that to be in balance by the end of quarter four. So by the end of quarter four, last quarter, they mentioned that they were expecting supply and demand of AI infrastructure to be very balanced. But they did see some increase in demand, as you saw through this quarter. So we are going to be a little bit short still, say a little tight as we exit the year, but are encouraged by that. Obviously, that is super encouraging because that means that they expect to continue to grow dramatically in the AI space. So I will think that in the upcoming quarters, if we continue to see this trend, this is what Nvidia AI stock investors want to hear, that you are still constrained because demand is still so high. And last quarter, again, Microsoft was one of maybe more of the bearish, more tame, saying that they were going to be balanced. Now they're saying that balance is not happening this quarter, is not happening next quarter, and they're still seeing a lot more demand pick up. The other thing that was kind of important to know is there was a question about Microsoft and these capital expenditure plans of delays in data centers. And this is something that I've been discussing. So if you've been watching this channel, you're not going to be surprised. But CEO mentioned the reality is they've always adjusted their bills. They've done this for the past 10 to 15 years, where sometimes they cancel orders and just move the order somewhere else, and you kind of cancel some of these leases before the production. And they mentioned they've done this. It's just that the market right now is paying a lot more attention to what they do quarter over quarter. And this is what I talked about, where the market, this is a very common thing. The market is just trying to find the secret sauce to the bearish thesis. We see it with Nvidia when people complain about overheating issues or some fixes is happening in the engineering side. A lot of these things have always happened. But the market is just viewing things a lot closer right now, that a lot of this is just noise. And hopefully I try my best to kind of dictate which I believe is noise and which I believe is a real threat. And so far, I've been right. So I'm hoping you guys have been enjoying that type of commentary for me. Now, the final thing we had heard from Amy Hood is that Satya mentioned that, and I'm butchering that name completely, so my apologies, talked about being power limited. And historically, he said that before, and I've always thought that when he talks about power limited, he actually meant like electrical power constraint, but that's not what he mentioned. He kind of uses this as an overall thing. Amy Hood clarified it that he's really talking about data center space. And so they continue through the second half to put things in place. In fact, they even pulled some things ahead of schedule to be delivered earlier for customers this quarter. In my opinion, this is gonna be a very great earnings for Nvidia. I think with this stock sitting at 112 right now, if we don't see a massive rally before earnings. I think this is going to be the earnings that really break the stock into some crazy new levels. Obviously, I could be wrong, but everything that I'm hearing, the kind of fear that we're seeing here with Nvidia stock and why the stock is down from its 150 lows, 150 highs, but we're hearing from all these other players. Meta accelerated. Still complaining, their team's still complaining about lack of compute. Microsoft accelerating some of the orders and saying that they don't believe they're going to be balanced anymore by the end of this year, and still will be more demand infrastructure constraints. So they need to build more and more data centers. We heard very similar things from Google right now, and the AI market continues to evolve. From everything that I'm looking at, I think Nvidia is still going to dominate for the next few quarters, for the next few years, and I'm still holding onto my position, and that's why Nvidia is my number one stock. Obviously, other companies can benefit, like we see AMD, like we see Arista Network, and other players as well, but I do think Nvidia is going to take a lot of that wallet spending. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Like I mentioned, if you found this useful, make sure to hit the thumbs up and the subscribe button. I promise this is the best place you're going to find any semiconductor and AI news. And if you haven't, make sure to check out my free newsletter. It is all very helpful for me to continue to do what I do right now. So peace out.